ranked 6th in the nation. Our officials tonight are Brian Kersey. Earl Walton is with us tonight. And Roger Ayers, and Doug Shows was supposed to be here tonight. Earl Walton is taking his place. And Doug Shows, Roger Ayers, and Brian Kersey told us before the game was involved in a car accident a couple of days ago down in Raleigh. Was supposed to do this game tonight, suffered a concussion. So Doug, if you're watching, we send our best wishes to you for a speedy recovery. Hope to see you back officiating the game that we're at very soon. And there is an early concern for Syracuse, Jake. Carolina getting on the offensive glass.
Well, Syracuse, one of the worst rebounding teams in the ACC. North Carolina, one of the best offensive rebounding teams, and that's going to be a concern all game long. All 5 guys in the white shirts have got to rebound.
Roberson knocks down a 12-footer, and Syracuse on the board.
And one thing that Carolina has not done as well this year, as I know Roy Williams wants his team to do, is guard the three-point line. And Syracuse has a number of different three-point shooters. That's where they've got to be able to attack.
The Orange force the turnover.
Michael Benajay and Trevor Cooney, 1 and 2 in the ACC in steals.
Dajuan Coleman, the offensive rebound. Benajay misses again. And the long rebound down to Marcus Page, who had maybe the quietest 30-point game in many, many years Monday night at Florida State. That's because Bryce Johnson had 39 points and 23 rebounds. Page had 30 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, no turnovers, and nobody said boo about him as Joel Berry, the second, banks home a 3.
You know, Marcus Page with 30 points. It kind of reminds you of back in 1980 when Magic Johnson in Game 6 of the NBA Finals, he had 42 points. Well, Jamal Wilkes had 38 in that game, and nobody really talked about it. He was magnificent, just like Marcus Page was against Florida State last Monday.
You'd figure tonight for Syracuse to win the game, they've got to knock down a lot of threes. When they won the battle for Atlantis back in November, they shot 47% of the turnover. As Cooney, a miraculous shot with the shot clock running down, and he's got a smile on his face, knowing the basketball gods were with him right there.
Well, you know that Trevor Cooney is capable of hitting difficult shots. You don't count on that difficult a shot going in.
Tied at 5, just over 2 minutes in.
But that's what Syracuse is going to have to do. They're going to have to hit perimeter shots, and they're going to have to rebound. 3 guys from that Syracuse front line were on the defensive glass on that miss. The guy that has to get on track is Michael Benajay. He's 5 of his last 23.
James down with the rebound off the miss by Cooney.
Syracuse doesn't want to get into a track meet with this North Carolina team. This Tar Heel team is excellent in transition. They want a high possession, fast tempo game. It's not that Syracuse can't get out and run, but they don't want this game in the 90s.
Joel James with a bit of a fadeaway 10-footer. They don't look to him for much offense. He still gets the start as Meeks will come off the bench. Although James last week did have a 5-for-6, 11-point outing against Georgia Tech.
Well, that game against Georgia Tech was, I think, his best game in a Tar Heel uniform. He has improved throughout his time at Carolina and has become a much more reliable performer.
How about Georgia Tech, by the way? They beat Virginia today. Second loss in a row suffered by the Cavs. Strong work on the offensive glass by Syracuse, and Roberson will be rewarded with a trip to the free throw line.
Roberson kept that ball alive and knocked it to Dajuan Coleman. He is an excellent offensive rebounder. He averages over 4 offensive rebounds a game. That's 3rd in the ACC. He's the type of player, Dan. He's got 16, 17 rebounds in single games before.
Numbers on the season, top 10 of the ACC in rebounding for Roberson. He swishes them both to tie the game, and we'll have our first substitution of the night. Isaiah Hicks will come into the game for Carolina. Bryce Johnson will sit down. Hicks has been a remarkably productive player off the bench. In 18 minutes per game, he's scoring almost 10 points per game. And he's shooting 68%, Jay, from the field.
He hardly ever misses. His last 7 games, 12 points per game, 71% from the field.
Jackson with a floater won't go. Rebound Benajay.
And that's what Syracuse has to do. Not just the big guys, but the guards have to come down and stick their nose in there and rebound. Syracuse getting out-rebounded by 6 a game. in ACC play, their 3 ACC games, 0-3 in large measure because of the glass.
Carolina 3-0 in league play. They've never been 4-0 under Roy Williams to start ACC play. Can get there with a win tonight. Barry into traffic, got rid of the ball just in time. The drive and the kick. Jackson open for 3. And the long rebound down to the Orange.
Yeah, that's the one area where Justin Jackson has struggled a bit this series, not knocking his perimeter shots down.
Coleman, count it, and a foul. A good start for Syracuse. They're up 2 at the first media timeout. When we come back, a look back at some time spent with R.J. Billis and Jim Boeheim during the suspension, as Jim Boeheim could do nothing but watch his team on television.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Nissan. Innovation that excites.
Tonight's game is part of ESPN's Journey to the Tourney, presented by Sonic, a season-long spotlight on games that will impact the tournament. During the suspension, as mentioned, Jay had a chance to spend some time with Jim Boeheim, and one of the questions Jay posed to Coach Boeheim is, what was your reaction to the NCAA rule?
Problem I have with the whole NCAA and what's going on is, you know, there's a new era. You know, they investigated us for 10 years, and I didn't. They interviewed me 5 times to find, well, what didn't, you know, they didn't find something that I did. I think we all want to have control of our programs. We all try to keep control of our programs. But if something goes on at midnight to 2 in the morning and you're not there and you're still responsible, boy, that's a hard standard for anybody to live up to. I may deserve the 9-game suspension, but the players don't necessarily deserve to not be able to talk to me, at least during that time.
And what the allegations were, what the findings were there were 3 parts to it. A couple of players were paid for work that was supposed to be volunteer work at the local Y. One player had some coursework done for him, and there was a violation of the school's drug policy. You've been very outspoken, Jay, on a regular basis that you felt the punishment far outweighed the crimes.
Yeah, I felt the punishment was disproportionate. I mean, we're talking about a 10-year investigation and just those 3 things. And even the drug testing stuff, how first of all, a coach being responsible for that strikes me as being unreasonable. I think most fair-minded people would say, you know, you should be responsible for what's reasonably within your job, and know or should have known is fair. But this isn't. This was beyond the bounds of fair. And you know, if you read the Sports Illustrated article by Jack McCallum, I thought it was tremendous, and he called it an exile. And it was just basically a public shaming. And the truth is, Dan, nobody knows what this is about. So there's no deterrent effect, and I haven't heard one person involved in NCAA athletics, whether a college administrator or within the NCAA office, who's been able to say, well, here's why, here's the policy behind it. Nobody can tell you what most of them didn't know. You couldn't talk to anybody. Right? It's something that they need to take a look at, because I don't think it's workable, and I don't think it works long term.
Syracuse with a turnover. Hinson is checked into the game. This is the corner 3, and Roberson down with the rebound, and that seemed to be the hardest part for Jim Boeheim, was the absolute lack of contact he was allowed to have with anybody, players, coaches, anybody even on the basketball staff, in the office, anything like that. And also because Syracuse appealed, there's a 3 for Richardson. Good start for the Orange. Because they appealed, they didn't want it to be a suspension for 9 conference games. Eventually the appeals committee ruled on it and said, you're right, but then they changed it within the next 2 days. So Mike Hopkins was put in the position where all of a sudden he became the de facto head coach for 9 games with very little notice.
Yeah, none of it made any sense. It should have started when Larry Brown's did, which was at the beginning of the season. And it's not that hard for the appeals committee to say, look, this was messed up. Let's rule on this right away, because we know the suspension should start right away, and then we could rule on everything else later in due course. They decided not to do that. It was a total mess, And even with giving scholarships back, because they ruled that the committee abused its discretion with regard to the suspension and with scholarships, They took a scholarship away from a walk-on, and now if they give it back, they can't give it to him for the first semester. And you're like, why not? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And you just wish some common sense would come into this.
Kennedy Meeks in the game for the first time, checked in out of the last time out, and he lays it in. Missed the last 7 games with a bruised knee. Has practiced the last 3 days. Yesterday was his first full practice. So that's why he's not starting and may see some limited minutes as his conditioning gets back up to speed. Joel Berry, whose scoring and assists have tripled from a year ago, knocks down the floater to bring Carolina back within 2.
Well, Joel Berry has been outstanding all year long. Not only has his shooting improved, but he's now healthy. He's such a strong driver with the ball. He's a good passer, and he's really improved as a defender. He's a big reason why North Carolina is the best team in the country.
Coleman can't finish. Roberson has it, kicks it back out to Cooney. Cooney for 3. Roberson very active on the glass so far tonight, but it winds up in the hands of Page.
Syracuse has gotten some good looks from 3, and they are going to have to knock some of these down. The guy who's been shooting it the best is Malachi Richardson, who over his last several games has knocked down well over 50% of his threes. And got off to a good start in this one, knocking his first one down.
Well, 10 of 13 from beyond the arc in his last 2 games. Both of those Syracuse losses. They lost at Pitt, at Miami, and then they lost here to Clemson on Tuesday. Cooney another 3. This one a little bit more conventional than his last one, and the lead is 5 for the Orange.
Well, credit to Dajuan Coleman for setting that screen. Malachi Richardson reached in. He just needed to let his big guy stay big to make North Carolina shoot over. But nice little pin down screen, a wide pin down, and Dajuan Coleman, he can really help his team by being a great screener on every play. He's the one that got Trevor Cooney open, and Cooney is always ready to shoot when he catches it.
Cooney now has 231 threes here at Syracuse, 3rd all time. Number 1, that guy right there, Jerry McNamara. Number 2, Andy Routens. Number 3, Trevor Cooney.
Jerry McNamara had such a great career at Syracuse. So he's sitting next to Mike Hopkins, who I thought Mike Hopkins, under extraordinarily difficult circumstances, did a really good job while Jim Boeheim was out.
The Orange went 4 and 5 under Mike Hopkins, including the 3 losses to open up their ACC slate as Bryce Johnson back into the game. Hicks returns to the bench. So far, Syracuse defending the defensive glass well. Carolina had 1 early offensive rebound in the first minute of the game. They haven't had one since. Syracuse, meanwhile, sometimes long shots, long rebounds. They've got 4 offensive boards already. Richardson turns it over. It's another thing Syracuse cannot afford to do tonight, because there may not be another team in the country, Jay, as good at turning turnovers into points as Carolina is.
The 2 things that Syracuse cannot afford are turnovers and quick or bad shots, because that leads to transition for North Carolina. When you play against the Tar Heels, your offense has got to help your defense. Like right there, by turning the ball over, Syracuse put their defense in an impossible position. There's no way you can guard a run out. I mean, it's difficult to guard runouts and second shots. And that's going to be key in this game tonight for Syracuse. You give up runouts, you give up second shots, there's no way to beat North Carolina.
Berry makes them both, and it's a 1-point game.
And right now, Tyler Lydon in the ball game, so he's going to be in the middle of that zone. That makes Syracuse, there's not as much bulk there. And so North Carolina, they're going to try to screen Lydon and attack in the middle.
Now, Lydon's really a 4-man. He's 6'8", 205, but has to play in the middle when Coleman goes out. Tyler Roberson so far tonight has brought the A game.
Well, Syracuse trying to isolate Kennedy Meeks and make him guard one-on-one. They'll try to put him in ball screen situations. Same with Bryce Johnson.
Over the top, Johnson with a slam. Pinson the assist.
Now, that's got to be Malachi Richardson there. He's got to see that, because Tyler Lydon was having to guard the big guy that was coming up the lane, Kennedy Meeks. And that opens up the back end, and you've got to be very alert. North Carolina attacks the zone very effectively, and this Carolina team is a much better shooting team than they've had last year. North Carolina, their big guys move very effectively. One guy comes up the middle, and then somebody slides in behind the zone. If there's no pressure on the ball, they can pick you apart.
ACC on ESPN. Time now to take a look at tonight's Wendy's Wooden Watch, and Marcus Page, a preseason Wooden Award candidate. Outstanding career despite a number of injuries over the years in Chapel Hill. He is currently the ACC active leader in career points and career assists, and he's Carolina's all-time leader in three-point field goals, and he's one of just 4 Tar Heels ever with 1,500 points and 500 assists. And Jason, pretty impressive company.
You got to go all the way back to the short shorts era to get other Tar Heels that have matched Marcus Page in scoring and assists. Jeff Lebo was a great guard out of Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Marcus Page, you mentioned, coming off that 30-point game. He missed the first several games of the season when he got back. His first game was against Maryland, put 20 points up and just an outstanding performance. Just a great college basketball player.
For more on Page, back to Allison.
You guys mentioned the time he had to miss at the beginning of the season. He said that completely changed his perspective. Having to sit out those 6 games really made him focus on the present. He scratched the goals he had set at the beginning of the season and decided to just really focus on enjoying his last few months at North Carolina. He said it really sunk in when he missed his homecoming game against Northern Iowa. Just how lucky he is to play this game every day. So from now on, he's all about just enjoying every practice, shoot around, and playing trip. He said, if I do that, the basketball things will take care of themselves, and I'll have no regrets at the end of the year.
And Roy Williams sure enjoying him coming back. They lost that game at Northern Iowa, a game that was only scheduled for Marcus Page to go back to his home state and play. The 2 losses for Carolina at Northern Iowa without Page, and at Texas, a game that we did on a buzzer beater by Javon Felix. But that guy has been one of the best players in college basketball over the last 4 years.
The active ACC leader in points and assists. Got some trivia for you. I'm the sedentary leader in ACC scoring and assists.
We didn't build that graphic. I didn't see that one pregame.
I'm too lazy to do it.
1 point lead for Syracuse as we near the midway point of the first half.
Joel Berry has done a really good job on Michael Benajay. He has stayed with him, not giving him anything easy.
Benajay a deep one, semi-contested 3 as well, and Johnson down with a rebound for Carolina. Benajay has really been struggling of late. Got off to such a great start early in the season. Kennedy Meeks will head to the free throw line for Carolina. Dajuan Coleman called for the foul. Meeks back, as we mentioned, from a bruised knee, and if you look at him right now and we asked you which knee do you think was the problem, you'd probably guess the one with the sleeve on it, the right knee. The left knee is the one that was hurt, and what Steve Kirshner, the outstanding sports information director for Carolina, told us was that Meeks' reason for wearing the sleeve on the right knee is because the left one has to air out a little bit so it can heal more quickly.
I don't think you understand the healing power of the air.
I'm a little fuzzy. Judging by the look Roy Williams had on his face when he was telling us the story, or when he was there for the story, he may not understand the healing powers of the air either. Bryce Johnson, who's just got a knack for putting the ball in the basket, gives Carolina the lead.
Bryce Johnson makes more difficult shots for big guys than anybody else in college basketball. I mean, that 8 to 12 footer is such a tough shot, and he makes it like nobody's business. He makes NBA shots all the time. He's an excellent offensive player.
Last foul, by the way, not on Coleman for Syracuse. It was on Benajay. His second. He's gone to the bench. Page misses the 3. Follow no good. Ball still loose, and it belongs to Franklin Howard.
And Bryce Johnson took off down to the other end instead of staying to rebound. He made a great pass to Marcus Page. A little surprised he didn't go after the offensive boards.
Leiden was so good early in the season. We saw him down in the Bahamas. 16 points, 9 rebounds per game as the Orange won the battle for Atlantis. Cooney, tough to get away. But teams now that Leiden's been around a little while, they know he can shoot. They know he can shoot from the outside, and he's finding it tougher to get going offensively as compared to the beginning of the year.
But now he's being guarded by a true big guy, Bryce Johnson. He's pulling him away from the basket.
And Coleman puts the ball on the deck and draws the foul on Hicks. Hey, next Saturday, it's the Tobacco Road rivalry, NC State and North Carolina. Noon Eastern right here on ESPN, and then TCU and number 1 ranked Kansas from Allen Fieldhouse. Both games streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app.
But Kansas is playing at such a high level right now, and they've got so many quality players that Bill Self can call upon in any given game. And John Gassaway had a really good article on ESPN.com about the top 25 players in college basketball based on all the numbers. He made a case for Wayne Selden to be in the Player of the Year race.
Nate Britt challenged by Leiden. Carolina bench thinking there should have been a foul. No call. And now a travel as Howard just slid a little bit on both feet before he got rid of the ball.
Well, I was surprised that a foul wasn't called there as well when Nate Britt went in there. But he went up straight.
Yeah, he did.
You know what? That's a good call. Kind of a Timothy Mozgov type play. And that's why I think for big guys, if you can go up straight, you're better off going up to try to block the shot, a contested shot, than you are. That looked like a push out there.
Yeah,
than you are.
wanted to go. Boy, talk about muscling it up and in. Kennedy Meeks just threw it off the backboard and it goes.
You know, big guys sometimes they'll try to just, put their arms up and stay on the floor. That's more often called a foul. I think they're much better off if they just jump.
Carolina with a 3-point lead. Richardson along on the three. Rebound to Page.
Boy, the Carolina guards have got the rebound.
Good pass to Jackson. Can't finish it.
You don't hang around for those long rebounds. Syracuse is going to get some offensive boards.
Another orange turnover.
Kennedy Meeks has missed the last 7 games with that left knee bruise. He certainly remembers how to score inside, using his strength to kiss it off the glass. Carolina by 3.
Arizona coming off that last-second loss at UCLA earlier in the week. Well, they may lose in Los Angeles again, down 8 with 8 to go. And coming up on ESPNU, 21 minutes away from #1 Kansas, Perry Ellis and company off that triple overtime win against #2 Oklahoma, averaging 106 points per game in 2 Big 12 games, though that last one was in extra time, fellas.
All right, Chris, thank you. Well, as you can see from looking at this, there's going to be a lot of changes in the top 10. Oklahoma, that incredible game against Kansas on Monday night, the triple overtime win for the Jayhawks. So they lost. Virginia lost 2 this week. Arizona may lose 2 this week, and other top 10 teams losing as well. But Jay, I think you and I agree it's going to be that kind of a year in college basketball.
It is. We're going to see a lot of volatility at the top of the polls. I don't think Oklahoma should move 1 spot. Not one. That's 6 points now for Joel James. He has played really well coming into this game.
It would be unusual for a team to lose and not drop at all, but I agree with you. You lose on the road in triple overtime to the #1 team in the country. I think that speaks a lot for you as opposed to against you.
I think so. I mean, I wouldn't move them a bit. Now, I'd move North Carolina up if they're able to win this one. I think Maryland has earned moving up, and they're not going to be able to move up now because they're #3, and if Oklahoma stays there. But how about that shot that Melo Trimble hit today against Wisconsin? That was big. You didn't have to diagram much. You said, look, you guys stay out of the way. Melo, do what you want. And what a great way to win a game for Maryland.
Second foul on Coleman. He stays in the game, at least for the moment. Leiden just went to the bench. Syracuse is not a deep team. If Joseph is in the game, usually you'll only see 7 players for the Orange. Roberson got his hand in there on the attempt by James. James being really aggressive offensively so far tonight.
They're attacking the middle. Justin Jackson came up into the middle. James went right into Dajuan Coleman, and then Bryce Johnson switched sides of the lane. There was nobody there to pick him up. Just a really intelligent attack of the zone by North Carolina.
Carolina averages 43 points in the paint per game. That is 3rd among major conference schools. 86 schools in those 7 conferences, and Carolina's 3rd amongst all of them in points in the paint, and they're exploiting that advantage so far here tonight.
I'm not sure there's anybody in college basketball that's better at those little runner floater shots like Justin Jackson just hit.
Syracuse got off to a great start, but it's been all Carolina over the last several minutes. Deshaun Watson and the undefeated Clemson Tigers. Monday at 8:30 on ESPN, on Watch ESPN, on the ESPN app, and with the MegaCast just about everywhere else as well. You will be part of the Voices, second year in a row that you're doing this. I think you're on ESPN News, is that right?
ESPN News, the ESPN Voices. I would tell you my pick for the game, but I don't want to cause any chaos in the desert.
Did you have fun doing it last year?
I had a blast. I mean, to be able to see, one of the really cool things was for us to see the coaches all game long and see what they go through in the machinations of the game. It was really, really cool.
Carolina by 7 at 5.5 to go in the first half. Carolina 3-0 in ACC play. Syracuse 0-3. Last time Syracuse was 0-4 in league play was back in the Big East days in 1996-97. So it has been a while. We mentioned a little bit earlier, Georgia Tech won today. They beat Virginia 68-64. UVA's second loss in a row. Duke over Virginia Tech 82-58. You see the numbers for Marshall Plumlee today?
Marshall Plumlee's had 2 straight games for Duke where he's had career highs.
21 and 10 today.
He had 18 against Wake and then turns around, has 21 against Virginia Tech.
Pitt with a road win at Notre Dame.
Pitt's really good.
86-82, and Miami beat Florida State 72-59.
Pitt's leading the ACC in assists with Michael Young, Jamel Artis. They've got 2 forwards that are really, really difficult to guard.
Young, Artis, and Sheldon Jeter, 3 forwards. Jeter comes in off the bench. They combined for 60 points today against Notre Dame.
Benajay got Marcus Page guarding him now, so Joel Berry did a good job on him. Now Marcus Page taking a turn.
Cooney with his 3rd 3 of the game, keeping him in it right now.
So Joel Berry's reward for doing such a good job on Benajay was now you get Cooney, shut him down. And Trevor Cooney's seeing a big basket right now. And he's going to need to. They have got to get Benajay going.
Biggest crowd in college basketball this year is here tonight, and that Cooney 3 brought him back to life. And a trip inadvertently. Hicks tripped Roberson, and will get called for the foul.
But he was going to get a layup too. A little bounce pass when Cooney was coming his way. He had Benajay in the corner.
That's the 3rd on Hicks. That'll chase him to the bench.
He would have been safe at home with that slide. That was pretty impressive.
Roberson's had an active first half. Neither team is over the limit yet.
The great thing about Tyler Roberson is he brings it against the best teams.
Cooney, 2-point game.
That guy, Trevor Cooney, is a gamer. He is a gamer.
Plays about 37 minutes a game. Only Benajay and Pat Barber play more in the ACC. Air ball. The Orange in transition. Cooney for the lead. And Roberson the rebound. Richardson. They've got the lead. .80 runs Syracuse to go back on top.
Syracuse turning defense into offense, getting out on the break. A terrific offensive rebound, find to the 3 for Malachi Richardson. Syracuse takes the lead.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Viagra.
Oh, Bill, they're going to lose this challenge. Kermit, my man.
His name will be added to that list by the end of the night. He's got 13 already, 3 threes. Syracuse J out rebounding North Carolina. That's a surprise. And they've made 5 threes to just 1 for North Carolina.
Well, that's what Syracuse has to do. They've got to win this game from the 3-point line, but they've also got to hang with North Carolina on the glass. Right now, they're beating them on the glass.
Boy, very surprising because Syracuse on the season, as you mentioned it earlier, they're getting out-rebounded by 2 a game. North Carolina is out-rebounding their opponents by 11 per game.
Well, right now, Carolina's only shooting 40% from the field, 1 of 8 from 3-point range. And usually the defense should get the overwhelming majority of rebounds after you miss a shot.
And I couldn't see Roger Ayers, the signal from the official. Did Meach travel? Or was he standing out of bounds when he caught the pass? Might have put a foot on the line. Either way, a turnover charge to Carolina.
Syracuse really doing a good job of spreading out North Carolina, throwing the big guys away from the bucket.
In and out for Cooney, and Bryce Johnson down with a rebound. Johnson, a relatively quiet 4 points and now 2 rebounds so far tonight.
Well, it's hard for him to get the ball in a spot where he's got any rhythm. That's one of the things this zone does. It takes the offense completely out of rhythm. They're doing something they don't normally have to do.
Got it near the free throw line, couldn't finish. Meeks with a couple of tries and lays it back up and in.
Oftentimes when you get your shot block right around the basket, you're the one that's likely going to get it back, because when you're right under the basket, it's hard for that shot to get thrown out of there. It usually will, or oftentimes will come right back to you, and Kennedy Meeks just stuck with it there.
Benajay, who is averaging 18 points per game, still scoreless tonight. Roberson knocking down a jumper. Syracuse back on top.
Trevor Cooney with 13. You know, Cooney's only averaged 11 over his last 3 games. Last 3 games, he's only 9 of 25 from the field. If they can get Benajay going, that would really help this Syracuse offense.
Johnson knocks down a tough contested jumper.
Those are the kind of shots we talked about earlier. Bryce Johnson can make tough shots that the overwhelming majority of big guys in this country cannot make in college basketball. Those are NBA shots.
And he made 14 of his 16 shots Monday night down in Tallahassee. Hinson got an errant elbow or forearm from Richardson on the drive. Ball's loose. Benajay for 3. Long rebound to Coleman. Richardson open. Count it.
Offensive rebounds, you expected to be a problem for Syracuse. It's been a problem for North Carolina. They can't keep Syracuse off the glass.
Into the final minute of the first half. Shot clock down to 7. Hinson for 3. And Meeks over the back.
North Carolina is settling for jump shots. They're not getting the ball inside as they did earlier in the game, and they are not penetrating this zone off the dribble. They are content to stay out on the perimeter. They're only down 2, but Syracuse is feeling awfully good about themselves right now with the way they played in this first half, and that's without their leading scorer Michael Benajay having a good game at all.
Has not scored. Cooney leads the way with 13.
Barry back on Benajay. He did a great job on him to start the game.
Richardson guarded by Jackson. He uses the screen, gets the switch. Coleman can't feed inside. Richardson, not this time on the 3. Benajay down with a rebound, and he is fouled. Still not the bonus, though. The 6th team foul committed by Carolina.
Cooney taking the ball out of bounds. You always have to watch for the inbounder, especially when he's as good a shooter as Trevor Cooney is.
Syracuse can hold for a final look here in the first half.
Second shots can be big at the end of a half.
Benajay turns it over. Johnson with 2 seconds. Lays it in time.
Why didn't they foul? I mean, they had a foul to give.
Yeah.
You have to foul there. What a great play by Bryce Johnson, but not an alert play. The crossover, it's turned over. Trevor Cooney needs to foul him here. I don't know, it looked like he tried, but you gotta wrap him up. That's a layup that shouldn't have been given up by Syracuse.
And that basket will send us to halftime, all tied up at 33 here in Syracuse. Coming up, the Jeep halftime report. 33. As we welcome you back to the Carrier Dome and take a look now at tonight's Sonic Showdown. The advantage for Carolina, forcing turnovers, turning those turnovers into points. The advantage for Syracuse, 3-point shooting, and improbably so, rebounding as we eventually take you inside the play, brought to you by Ally Bank and Shulman and Jay Billis. We would not have expected a rebounding advantage for Syracuse in this game.
Well, it reminds you a little bit about Carolina's game at Texas, where they got beat on the glass and they also got beat from the three-point line 3 times. Syracuse got offensive rebounds, kicked them out to open shooters that were stepping into wide open three-point shots, and they made those threes. 11 second chance points for Syracuse, and North Carolina's got to compete on the glass, and they've got to get the ball inside. And Marcus Page has got to get on track. 0 points in the first half for Marcus Page, 0 for Syracuse's Michael Benajay. That is highly unusual. They got to get Marcus Page going.
Whoever would have guessed that. Allison Williams with some thoughts from Roy Williams.
Yeah, Dan, I think Jay may have actually talked with Roy at the half as well, because that's exactly what Roy Williams said. The 11 second chance points for Syracuse, way too many. And he pointed out they're shooting 18 threes in that first half, so it's the long rebounds. It's not just the big guys that need to be held accountable for going up and getting some of those rebounds with the way Syracuse is shooting. Offensively, though, guys, they have to find more consistency in their movement and get back to attacking the middle of that zone every time they have the ball.
They're just 1 of 9 from three-point range. Thank you, Allison. But North Carolina, they do have more weapons to shoot the three this year. Coleman with a big block. They've got more guys who can shoot the three than the last couple of years. Remember those stats, Jay, we'd always throw out that Marcus Page had more threes than the rest of his teammates combined. That is no longer the case, but they did not shoot it well in the first half.
No longer the case. North Carolina, a much better shooting team and a much better free throw shooting team. You can't expect to get to the line quite as much against Syracuse because of that zone, but having Marcus Page knock down his first 3 to start the second half is great news for North Carolina.
So Carolina's back on top. Benajay scoreless for the Orange, and he is averaging 18 points per game on the season.
That pass by Coleman, and Coleman has played more minutes in this game than any other that I can remember this year.
Jackson lays it in, and a quick 5-0 start for Carolina here in the second half.
A turnover for Syracuse turns into essentially a layup for North Carolina.
Cooney led the Orange with 13 in the first half. Good shot fake by Benajay, but he misses the 3.
Boy, is he struggling. Those are shots that earlier in the season, 5, 6, 7 games ago, Michael Benajay was making with regularity. He had a great start to this season.
Long rebound to Benajay. Numbers for the Orange, and Page commits a foul to prevent what probably would have been a layup at the other end.
Yeah, that was a smart play by the senior, because Syracuse had a 3-on-2, if not a better advantage, heading down the floor, and I think Marcus Page did save a layup or a dunk.
The crowd here with the Carrier Dome, they always stand until the first made bucket of each half. They can sit down now. Cooney with another 3.
Again, that wide pin. And when he catches it, he is ready to fire.
4th 3 of the game for Trevor Cooney. Page into the lane, tries to drop it off, has to run it down, got it back, and Johnson with the slam off the broken play to give Carolina a 4-point lead.
What an alert play after losing the ball for Marcus Page, not only to get it back, but have the presence of mind to get it to Bryce Johnson. Bryce Johnson even hits the rim when he dunks that thing.
Cooney again. And James, who had a good first half, 6 points for Carolina, down with a rebound.
He's such a wide body, he just goes right into Dajuan Coleman, which Bryce Johnson is trying to do now, and he occupies that middle.
A lot of contact between James and Richardson. They play on. Justin Jackson baseline. His patented floater is good.
He knocks that shot down with such regularity. It's really amazing, his touch on those shots. Tyler Roberson should have gotten a hand on that pass. Bryce Johnson made that cross-court pass to Jackson, and I thought Roberson could have gotten a hand on it.
And another foul on Page.
Whether you call it a runner or a floater, that pass, I thought Tyler Roberson, his hands were up, he could have gotten a piece of that, but I don't think there's anybody better in the country. There's a bunch of guys that have great runners, great floaters, but I can't think of anybody that does it better than Justin Jackson does.
He's not shooting the 3 this year like he did the second half of last year, but he's still finding other ways to score, averaging almost 13 points per game. Page the save.
I think Carolina's got to continue to play inside out in this second half. If the ball touches the paint, which Syracuse has not been as proficient of keeping teams out of the paint this season.
James with the tap, but it won't stay down, and back come the Orange down by 6.
Syracuse very fortunate there. North Carolina should have scored.
And now James injured as Richardson ran into him. Roberson with a bucket. Roger Ayers will stop the play and see if James is okay to continue.
I think some of the North Carolina faithful are saying, hey, that should have been a foul. But if it were a foul, I think it would have been a foul on James. When he jumped out here, he did not have legal guarding position, just jumped out. And I think that would most of the time be called a foul on the defense. That wound up being an easy basket for Syracuse.
James to the bench. Meeks back in. If you weren't with us in the first half. Meeks returning tonight after missing the last 7 games with a bone bruise in his knee, something that had been bothering him since November. They don't know if there was any one specific moment that caused the injury, but they felt they would have to sit him down at some point, so he sat out 7 games. Came back, looked pretty good in the first half.
He looked very good. It also saved some wear and tear on Kennedy Meeks. Because if you remember, he wore down toward the end of last season. So this gives him a little more rest in the middle of the season so that he can be a little bit fresher when he gets to March.
Joel Berry with a 10-footer. He has taken a significant step forward here this season.
And his step forward has helped Carolina take a step forward because Marcus Page can just play off the ball.
Cooney to Benajay. Passed it up. Richardson. What a shot fake. Pinson went sliding right by him. And Malachi Richardson is shooting the lights out his last 3 games.
He has played his best basketball this season. He was excellent against Miami.
Richardson's 14 for 20 from 3 his last 3 games. And look at Cooney going the length of the court. The Orange back within 1.
Both Benajay and Cooney very good at the top of that zone. They are 1 and 2. Benajay the leader, Cooney second in steals in the ACC.
Bob over the top, great pass, but an equally good block. 3rd of the night for the freshman Tyler Lydon. Johnson slowly getting back into the play at the other end. No call on the Richardson attempt. But now there's a turnover that will give it back to Syracuse. Richardson knocking down 3s. Cooney knocking down 3s, but Cooney showing he can do more than just knock down a 3. Coast to coast, the lay-in with the left. It's a 1-point game here in Syracuse. Tonight's game is part of ESPN's Journey to the Tourney, presented by Sonic, a season-long spotlight on games that will impact the tournament. Jim Boeheim returns from his suspension tonight. During his suspension a week ago, as Syracuse played Miami, our own Jay Billis had a chance to watch a Syracuse game with Coach Boeheim. Here were some of Boeheim's reactions.
Jeez, we still didn't get it. That's a good play. He got out, set the screen. Oh, no. Jeez, make the layup. Oh, my gosh. We got to make a layup there.
I mean, it was eating him alive, huh?
I think excruciating would be the word for him to watch the team with no opportunity to help. And he said it was like being a fan.
How awful is that? Lydon short. There was one comment made by Boeheim. He said, I won't say who the player is, but there was one time that guy was lucky I wasn't coaching because I would have taken him right out of the game. But Mike Hopkins elected not to take whoever that player was for whatever he did out of the game.
He said, I wish I could have been there just so I could have taken him out.
Almost would have been worth another violation. more trouble. There's Berry into the paint, runs into some traffic.
Looked like he walked first. Joel Berry, that's why you want to attack off ball reversal off the dribble. Dribble penetration is really debilitating to a zone. Yeah, he got tripped. Okay, that was a good call.
By the way, Dajuan Coleman, you alluded to this already. He's played more minutes tonight already than he's played in any full game this season. And he might have just picked up another foul, and if he did, it's his 3rd. Coleman had not played more than 21 minutes in a game so far this year. He's already played 23 in this one. Guy coming back, missed about a year and a half after very serious knee surgery, and now he is going to make his way to the bench. Tyler Roberson's getting ready to come back in.
Well, they need Coleman's bulk in there. That's why Jim Boeheim's playing him so many minutes. And Isaiah Hicks knocks down that first free throw. Hicks shooting 80% from the free throw line. North Carolina as a team shooting 75%. That's a huge jump for this team that just a couple years ago was really struggling from the free throw line. That was considered a weakness. Now it's a strength.
3-point lead, Carolina. Benedict still scoreless tonight. 0 for 6 from the field. They've all been 3-point attempts. Grit is on him right now.
The fact that this is a one-possession game with Michael Benedict not having scored is absolutely remarkable.
Richardson shooting, helping to keep them in it. Count the basket. It's going to be a goaltending call on Hicks.
Malachi Richardson has played some excellent basketball over what is now the last 4 games. Last 3, he's averaged 17 points a game. And really shooting the ball well from 3.
1-point game.
Carolina keeping a big guy behind the zone. They can throw it up.
Barry thought about it, steps in, kicks to Pinson. And a good rebound going right over Meeks there was Benedict.
Well, that's what Allison Williams was talking about. The guards have to rebound too, and that was a guard coming down from the top of the zone, Michael Benedict. If he doesn't, Carolina gets an easy basket.
Syracuse looking for the lead, but Roberson travels. After we're done tonight here with the Carrier Dome, stick around for Sports Center at 9. We'll have highlights and breakdowns from both NFL wildcard games, the NBA, the NHL. Busy slate of college hoop action. Sports Center at 9 after our game. Right here on ESPN and streaming live on the Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. Knocked away. Benedict with a steal. Keeps it in bounds and draws the foul.
That's the ACC steals leader, Michael Benedict. Both he and Trevor Cooney are so good at getting steals at the top of that zone. And that's one way that Syracuse is able to get some transition baskets. It's still a pretty good transition team, scoring off its defense. And really, Syracuse's defense has not been bad this year. They've just had some difficulties. Their offense has put them in so many bad spots defensively because you can't guard against turnovers. They've been turning the ball over. They've been giving up second shots, and that makes a pretty good defense look bad. Their first shot defense has been decent.
If you ignore the overtime against Clemson on Tuesday, a game that Clemson won, so if you just look at the regulation period of the last 3 Syracuse games, they have scored 61, 51, and 61 points. That's just not enough to win games.
Well, and they're not shooting the ball well. And Michael Benedict has been struggling. You saw Tyler Roberson a couple of possessions ago getting a travel call because he was trying to make a juke move instead of just catch and go. Do the simple things. When Syracuse does the simple things, they got a good opportunity.
Johnson fouled inside. Before the shot, the foul on Light.
The big guys for North Carolina do a really good job of screening the zone. They'll screen the middle, and right now the middleman of the zone, the middle defender is Tyler Lydon, and he does not have a lot of bulk. So you can go in there and screen him. That means the other big guy is likely going to be open, or you're going to have a shot at it. Then if a shot goes up, they're going to be a free offensive rebound.
A Carolina turnover. Richardson playing with a lot of confidence tonight. Crossover Benedict. Lydon tough pass to Cooney after he almost got caught up in the air. Richardson again. Another long rebound back to Syracuse.
Guards have to be alert.
Lydon off the back of the iron, and Hicks down with it for the heels.
One thing Syracuse is doing such a good job of is using ball fakes and shot fakes.
And another Carolina turnover.
Well, it's just not a strong post-up by Isaiah Hicks. If you're just able to reach around and knock it away, you haven't really posted up as big as you need to.
And Cooney fouled by Barry, the second on Barry. He'll sit down. Page returns. Carolina, a much deeper team. Jim Boeheim really relying almost exclusively on 6 players.
Well, with this lineup, you don't have to have anybody in the post. You can really spread North Carolina out, especially with Lydon being such a threat to pick and pop. Job by Bryce Johnson to hedge that ball screen.
Lydon will launch a 3. Johnson the rebound for Carolina.
Overall, that was a really good defensive possession for North Carolina. Opponents are always going to try to get the Carolina big guys away from the basket and involve them in ball screen action.
Johnson, nice pass down low. Hicks gathers, had it stripped, got it back, and draws the foul. Timeout on the floor. Got a good one going to the Carrier Dome. Syracuse leading North Carolina by 1. When we come back, a look inside the ACC.
There's a place where you really live.
In the ACC, the return of Jim Boeheim tonight after serving his 9-game suspension. The Orange are playing well. They're leading Carolina by 1 right now, midway through the second half. A busy day and a busy week in the ACC. Virginia lost again today. They're second in a row. Georgia Tech beat them 68-64. Cat Barber's having a sensational year right now for the Wolfpack. Louisville, a team that not a lot of people are talking about. They're 2-0 in the league. They're at Clemson tomorrow, trying to go to 3-0. Brandon Ingram's really taken his game up a notch in recent weeks. Duke with a 24-point win over Virginia Tech. Right now, North Carolina, Duke, and Pittsburgh are all 3-0 atop the conference standings.
You know, Pittsburgh leading the ACC in assists, and with those forwards, Michael Young and Jamel Artis and James Robinson, the point guard, second in the league in assists behind Xavier Rattan-Mays of Florida State. It's going to be another free throw because Malachi Richardson violated there. I think Pittsburgh has shown to be a really good basketball team. Right? Who would you say right now would be in the lead? I mean, I know it's obviously really early and conference games are going to count more than anything in deciding this, but you know, if you had to say, okay, right now, ACC Player of the Year, who would come to mind for you?
I think Grayson Allen's got to be on the list, obviously. He's the second leading scorer in the league, and they're undefeated in league play.
I think you have to put Bryce Johnson up there, second in the league in rebounding, leading the league in field goal percentage. Top 10 in scoring. He's been terrific.
I think Barber's fate may rest on how the team does as a whole.
But Damian Lee's averaging what, close 17, 18 points a game. He's been excellent. Both he and Trey Lewis as fifth-year transfers to come in and play as well as they have has really been interesting to watch.
You mentioned the guy who I think is the most underrated player in the league, at least to the top end, in Michael Young. Nobody talks about Michael Young, and he puts up great numbers year after year.
Well, he's terrific. He and Artis are such versatile performers.
Tipped in. I think Leiden got a hand on that, and it's going to count.
Well, if Leiden got a hand on it, it was basket interference. If that ball was above the cylinder, I thought that it just dropped down and Roberson shot.
Yeah, maybe he didn't touch it. Nobody complained on the Carolina bench. Nate Britt misses the three. And Hicks is there for the putback.
Bryce Johnson kept that alive and allowed Hicks to be able to put that thing in.
Richardson, shovel pass into Leiden for the slam.
What a curl. And a fabulous pass by Malachi Richardson. He's got a smile on his face, and he should.
Freshman to freshman, and the Orange have the lead again.
I thought Richardson had gone too wide on that drive, but it turned out to be the exact perfect angle.
Now Richardson the foul.
Richardson just coming off that screen by Leiden, and I thought he went too wide. I just thought he'd punch the lane, but a terrific pass and catch.
1 point lead Syracuse, midway point of the second half. The Orange are 0-3 in ACC play. Carolina's 3-0. As we mentioned in the first half, they have never been 4-0 in ACC play under Roy Williams. Bryce Johnson with a turnaround, a little bit short. And Leiden making a much bigger impact in the game here in the second half than he did in the first. Cooney puts his shoulder down. He's so good at initiating the contact and drawing the foul on the drive.
Well, you can see how strong he is, too, because Theo Pinson wound up on his back. He gets low, and usually in basketball, the guy whose shoulders are lower is going to win the fight. And when the defense, when you have your shoulders lower as a defender, that's why coaches are always telling you to get down in the stance. It's not because it makes them feel better, it's because it works.
Jackson has returned for Pinson for Carolina. And Richardson actually, he might add himself a layup, but he elected to make the pass. And the baseline official, Earl Walton, saying that was off a Carolina hand. Carolina players are complaining, saying nobody touched that ball. They're going to overturn it and give it to the Tar Heels. And I think that was the right call. I think they got it right.
It looked like he was trying to make a pass there.
Did Page reach in and deflect it?
Well, he reached in, but Brian Kersey came over and said nobody touched it. And they basically reversed the call.
Lob over the top, tipped away by Leiden. Caught by Roy Williams. And this one will belong to Syracuse. Let's check in with Allison Williams.
When Roy Williams addressed his team, he spent a lot of time really engaged with the big guys, Meeks and Johnson and Hicks. He needs more from them. He needs them to be more active and more physical inside. And before he broke that last time out, he told his guys, go out there, play smart, but play with your heart. They need to match this emotion that Syracuse is showing.
And this is something especially in the case of Meeks and Johnson. Roy Williams, this is not a new story. He's been on those two guys to really give everything they have in terms of intensity and toughness and aggressiveness every minute they're on the floor.
And I think they've been doing that at a higher level this year, especially Bryce Johnson. I mean, his performance has been nothing short of excellence. I mean, how many players in Carolina history have scored 39 points and 23 rebounds in a game?
Cooney again along two, including Bryce Johnson, two. Billy Cunningham did it twice back in 1964.
Mitch Kupchak, I believe, did it. A walk there by Justin Jackson, and things are not going well on the offensive end for North Carolina. They've been a little bit disjointed. They are not getting the ball inside where they want it. And underneath the screen, and what a step back move against a bigger defender in Justin Jackson, and Trevor Cooney is feeling it. And one thing you know, he will not get tired. A 1-3-1 zone by North Carolina to give a little bit of a different look. The corners are where you want to attack.
Mitch Kupchak, the last Carolina player to have a 30-20 game, had 35 and 21 back in '76. Billy Cunningham, the only other guy to have 39 or more points, 23 or more rebounds. Just a phenomenal night by Bryce Johnson. The only two players in Division I basketball to have those kinds of numbers in the last 20 years. Kevin Durant and Blake Griffin. That's pretty good point. Amazing. Cooney having himself a night. A season high. 23 points for Cooney, and the lead grows to 6. Touch pass Johnson, the finish for Hicks.
What a pass by Bryce Johnson. The defense collapsed to the ball as Johnson caught it about the free throw line, and he immediately looked to the baseline where Isaiah Hicks was behind the zone. And Malachi Richardson caught in no man's land there, caught between the wing and down low. What a great pass by Bryce Johnson.
And a three-point play for Hicks. Carolina back within 3.
And another double-figure game for Isaiah Hicks. He had 7 double-figure games in a row going into Florida State. He had 8 in that one.
Not many better front courts in the country than this group that Carolina has.
Absolutely not. Good switch out by Marcus Page there. A poor pass by Roberson.
Stolen away by Britt. Nice long diagonal pass to Jackson for the lay-in. Timeout with the lead down to 1.
Well, Syracuse can't afford turnovers because that leads to North Carolina points in transition, but Trevor Cooney has been nothing short of outstanding. I don't know what area code that is, but it's outside of Syracuse.
Chris Hassel with a studio update. Guess what? We have another triple overtime game in college basketball, and USC goes up 2. That's a goaltending call on Arizona. It's a 2-point lead for USC. Arizona may lose both games in LA this week. Kansas, well, they had a triple overtime game earlier in the week. We all know about that. They're up 5 on the road at Texas Tech on ESPNU. Back to Dan Shulman and Jay Billis.
Chris, thank you. Next Saturday, you can see Kansas as part of the doubleheader. It starts with NC State and Carolina at noon Eastern, and right after that to Allen Fieldhouse as Kansas, ranked number 1 in the nation right now. They take on TCU. Dan Shulman, Jay Billis, Allison Williams, 26,000 plus, the largest crowd in college basketball this season for the return of Jim Boeheim And to see the Orange take on North Carolina, and the game has been terrific tonight. Malachi Richardson just got called for his 4th foul. An issue for the Orange, who are not deep, and Richardson's having a big night. They will have to figure out a way to play without him for the next several minutes, it would appear.
At Ally Bank, no branches equals great rates. It's a fact. Kind of like playing the boss equals the boss wins.
7:38 to go. Today in the Syracuse Post-Standard, the local paper here in Syracuse, Krista Lemzak came up with an innovative idea. Billis Bingo talking about the Jim Boeheim NCAA suspension situation. How many of you said tonight?
Well, I've said a bunch, but we can end this right now. Chandler Parsons' father bought him a car. It was a Bentley, and there were Doritos in the back. There you go.
I'm not sure that's the way the game is played. That seemed like...
Well, no, I don't think that game is quite as good as the NBA draft wingspan war on dehydration game, which I really appreciate. I wish I could partake. Wingspan was in there.
The Bentley Doritos story, by the way, as Page finds Jackson. What a finish, and Carolina takes the lead. Mike Hopkins, early on in the suspension, was asked about what it's like replacing Boeheim during the suspension. He said it's like your dad gave you a Bentley and you don't want to return it to him with like a bag of open Doritos strewn across the back seat. So if you think we've all lost our minds, there's actually a reason that is on there. Coleman is back in, by the way. Richardson's gone out because he's got 4 fouls.
Joel Berry still on Trevor Cooney.
Cooney can't finish. Coleman does.
That was a terrific job by Coleman. He had a wide open path to the basket, where that ball looked awfully close to being in the cylinder.
Syracuse looking for its first conference win. Hicks fouled by Leiden, who thought he got all ball.
Cooney with a terrific drive, and anytime you get a drive, oftentimes that's going to draw shot blockers. 2 guys went after it. It's hard to tell whether that was just off, but a terrific job by Dajuan Coleman going to the offensive glass.
That's his 5th offensive rebound of the game. Neither team has missed a free throw tonight. Syracuse is 5 for 5, and after that first make by Hicks, Carolina's now 10 for 10.
It was a great transformation by North Carolina into a really good free throw shooting team. They gave away so many points the last couple years, not only some perimeter shooting, but when they would get to the free throw line. And guys really worked hard, and they're knocking them down.
This time for Cooney. Hicks by himself, by the way, is 9 for 9 from the free throw line and has 13 points in 16 minutes of play. Page thought about it. Berry will do more than that. He'll drain it.
That was all made by the shot fake and just putting it on the floor. One hard dribble by Marcus Page. And you can move a defense just with a fake, with a pass fake, a shot fake. And that was vintage basketball there by Marcus Page.
And the Carolina lead is 4. Cooney, the pull up from the elbow. Tough shot. And he's up to 25 on the night.
And he's having to create his own. It's not like he's coming off the screens or he's getting wide open. I wonder if he's got a Fitbit on, because he's ran like 27 miles in this game. It's remarkable.
He and Benajay, every time they come back down on D, they slap hands at the top of that zone. Every single time. Hicks cradles it, but he was fouled before the shot attempt. It'll go on Coleman.
If they're slapping hands, it's cold and flu season. They use some hand sanitizer. But this is a guard just creating his own shot. Stopping, it wasn't even a step back, just a little fade back. And he can make, we've seen him do it his whole career, makes tough shot after tough shot. And better yet, he makes them when he's tired, which is really the mark of a tough player.
The foul on Coleman, his 4th. You can see the night for Cooney. Coleman has gone back to the bench. Richardson has come back in for Syracuse. They get another shooter, but they get smaller at the defensive end as Leiden has to go back into the middle of that zone.
North Carolina has traditionally been so good at what just happened. A missed free throw, they knock it back out.
Great pass. Johnson has had a number of terrific feeds tonight. Hits the slam. That'll be the 5th assist of the night for Bryce Johnson.
Well, Bryce Johnson, when he's been at the top of the middle of that zone, when he's gotten the ball, he's immediately looked baseline. It's been Hicks that he has found. He's had another really good game.
Richardson switches hands and banks it in.
He's just got a knack for scoring, doesn't he?
2-point game, 4.5 to go here with the Carrier Dome. To shoot. Johnson from the baseline, got it.
Those are so difficult to make, especially for big guys. That's an awkward position from which to shoot. And Bryce Johnson makes it look so easy.
Tough shot. Got it back. Still loose, and it's out of bounds to North Carolina.
Bryce Johnson has not put up gigantic numbers, but when he's gotten an opportunity to knock a shot down, he has been very efficient along the baseline, knocking down that 18-footer. North Carolina with a 4-point lead on the road.
This is
Billis. I'm Dan Schulman. North Carolina leading Syracuse 66-62. Jay, despite an incredible night from Trevor Cooney.
Well, Trevor Cooney has 25 points. He's 5 of 11 from three-point range. Now this one, that would win most sports games. But every shot he's had has been contested. You know, Joel Berry's been on him. Marcus Page, Justin Jackson spent some time on him. It's not like he hasn't had good defenders on him, and they haven't been right with him. But to think that Syracuse is within 4 points in this game, and Michael Benajay has not had a field goal. He's 0 of 9. I mean, who would have thought that?
That might be the craziest thing. Benajay's got 2 points, and Marcus Page has 3 points.
Really, Syracuse has kept in this with what they've done on the glass. Their offensive rebounding has been excellent. Another good pass along the baseline, a little touch pass by Bryce Johnson.
Stays with Carolina with 10 on the shot clock. Page to inbound.
Hey, what's up? What's up?
And Johnson had that picked off, telegraphed it. Benajay took it away, and there's his first field goal of the game.
North Carolina, for the most part, has not turned the ball over and had it lead to points on the other end for Syracuse.
The basket will count for Hicks. Bryce Johnson continues to play the role of facilitator in the offense. That's assist number 6.
Well, when he draws the defense, he has been quick to look for his other big guy, and that has been primarily Isaiah Hicks.
And the perfection continues at the free throw line. The numbers keep piling up for Hicks. Got 18 points off the bench.
Well, he's one of the best subs in the country. I don't know whether you call him a 6th man, but he's done a tremendous job.
Wild Card Weekend rolls on tomorrow. We've got you covered at 10 o'clock Eastern Time with NFL Insiders Sunday edition. They'll have early breaking stories and injury updates. It begins with postseason NFL countdown at 11 and 8 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow night, NFL primetime with all the highlights and analysis.
Down the stretch, the priority defensively for North Carolina has got to be Trevor Cooney and Malachi Richardson. Those are 2 guys they have to know where they are all the time.
Coleman back for Roberson.
Cooney's become a player in this game that you just can't leave. I don't think you can even help off of him.
3 minutes to go. Carolina with the ball and a 3-point lead. Jackson into Johnson. Another great pass to Hicks.
Carolina is just drawing the wings up. Tyler Lydon was drawn all the way up on the wing. Dajuan Coleman was in the middle, and as soon as they draw him up, they hit the high post and look immediately to the baseline.
Cooney no. Hicks the rebound.
North Carolina's doing a really good job of attacking these wings and then getting the ball in the middle. They're not just attacking from the top.
Jackson with another floater, and the lead grows to 7.
Syracuse is going to have to find an answer on the offensive end. You can't expect to get stops against an offensive team like North Carolina all game long.
And now Benajay turns it over. Cooney gives the foul.
Now the ball's on the right side of the floor here, going to the wing, and Tyler Lydon comes all the way up. And as soon as he does, as soon as he comes up to Jackson, the ball goes to the middle and immediately to the baseline. That's excellent execution by North Carolina. And that's one where Justin Jackson, that should be a hockey assist for him, because he made the pass that led to the assist. He knew exactly where that ball was to end up. That was really effective attack of the zone by North Carolina.
You know, Jay, Syracuse was right there with Pittsburgh. Were outscored 14-2 to win the game. Pitt won. They were right there with Miami, tied, outscored 20-7 to win the game. Miami won by 13. Had a free throw at the end of regulation to beat Clemson. Couldn't hit it, lost in overtime as Benajay scores and is fouled. And again here, they were right there with North Carolina just a couple of minutes ago, but now they're down by 7.
They don't have a ton of options to go to on the bench. And Michael Benajay, just a really good drive. Not a very good job of handling the ball screen up top by Bryce Johnson.
Roberson for Coleman.
And Syracuse is going to bring some full court pressure before dropping back.
And a touchdown pass here to Marcus Page, who had it blocked by Lydon.
What a play by Tyler Lydon. That's his 4th block. Took it right out of the left hand, and it bounced off the rim and over the backboard.
What a play.
That's an amazing basketball play by Tyler Lydon.
Looked like Page was in the clear. Can they get the stop they so desperately need?
Syracuse trying to trap split by Joel Berry. So they're having to take some risks now. Carolina can take advantage of it.
And Bryce Johnson has another assist, this time Justin Jackson. Is that 8 assists now for Johnson? What a night he's having.
It wasn't good enough to get 39 and 23. Right. He wants a triple-double now.
Benajay, no. And Hicks is fouled. Bryce Johnson might get mentioned when the ACC Player of the Week award comes out at the end of the weekend.
Well, it's just been a much more intelligent and focused attack of the zone in the second half by North Carolina. They've routinely gotten the wings to move up, hit the middle, then looked baseline or looked opposite. It's been methodical, really.
By the way, the 8 assists for Johnson, not only is it a career high, it doubles his previous career high. He has picked apart the zone here in the second half.
Well, maybe he made a bunch of good passes in other games and guys missed.
Yeah. Richardson. Roberson is fouled and will shoot a couple. Well, the win tonight for North Carolina would boost them to 4-0 in league play for the first time under Roy Williams. Coming up, we told you next, they don't play for a week. Next Saturday, they're home to NC State. Then they'll take on the Demon Deacons. Danny Manning has that team playing well right now. It's not an easy out. Some of the teams projected to be near the bottom of the league appear to be tougher. Then they go to Virginia Tech, home to Boston College, and then at Louisville.
Well, Wake Forest, Devin Thomas averaging a double-double for Danny Manning. Now Cody Miller-McIntyre back healthy, so they're getting their full complement of players as well. I agree with you. I think the middle and bottom of the ACC has really improved.
Not a lot of easy games. Johnson with the lay-in, and he's strutting his stuff right now, knowing his team is getting closer to a big win and that he's been a big part of it.
You know, North Carolina keeps coming at you for 40 minutes. And ultimately, like the Carolina teams of old, they're going to wear you down. And I think that's exactly what's happened in this game. They have worn Syracuse down. And still a game that was, Carolina had 33 points at halftime in a tie ball game. Now they've got 80 and should have more. They've missed some free throws.
So the return of Jim Boeheim does not look like it's going to end with a W for the Orange. They will fall to 0-4 in league play.
Their schedule, my goodness, is brutal.
They've got Boston College, maybe the weakest team in the league, coming in on Wednesday, but then they go to Wayne. They go to Duke. They go to Virginia, and then they're home to Notre Dame.
Seems like they're road games that are they're games that are only one plays, that they don't have a return game. They're playing all the top teams, and they're playing them all on the road.
Yeah. Duke, Virginia, Miami, Louisville. The only time that Syracuse plays them is on the road. Jackson with a slam. North Carolina's schedule is really backloaded. They've got a much easier front nine than back nine, if you will, in the ACC. Benajay to lay it in. The Orange keep the pressure on, but Benajay fouls, and Johnson will head to the line. Well, so Jim Boeheim is back for Syracuse. The next issue is this team good enough to make some noise in the conference this year?
They've got to shoot it really well. I mean, remember when we first saw Jim Boeheim this year down at the Battle for Atlantis in the Bahamas, the first thing he says was, if we shoot it well, we can win games. Yeah. If we don't, we can't beat people. And it has been a difficult time shooting the ball over the last 9 or 10 games. And they shot it extraordinarily well in the Bahamas, wound up winning that tournament, beating UConn, Texas A&M. I mean, those were excellent wins. But they shot near 50% from three-point range in those games. And they have not done that since.
They're at 31% from three-point range tonight. 30% from three-point range in their losses this year.
Yeah, that's just not. They can't overcome that because they don't have as many other ways to score. And rebounding, they give up too many rebounds, too many second shots.
They were right there with Carolina for about 33 minutes tonight, but the Tar Heels pulling away late.
This is a workmanlike performance by North Carolina, especially in the second half. Very methodical and very focused attack of that zone. It was a good win for Carolina on the road.
They'll go to 4-0 in conference play. Hicks a big night. Johnson a big night. Overcoming the even bigger night from Trevor Cooney as North Carolina beats Syracuse 84-73. The Heels are 4-0 in the ACC. The Orange drop 2-0-4. For Jay Billis, Allison Williams, and our crew, I'm Dan Schulman saying thanks for watching. Time now for SportsCenter. Let's send you to Max Bretos and Jonathan Coachman.